people don't realize it, but I have a history too, and I haven't talked about it at all. And it's one of those, just like what you said, you come from, you're the second person this week that I've met with that has said, well, I could go out and I could talk to people in the streets, and then I could relate to people in a way that maybe they don't expect a senatorial candidate to do things, because, and it's something that I haven't really talked about just because it's personal.
Yeah,
just like
sometimes
history is personal.
Yeah, and well, in these times now, a lot of things have to be set to the side for the advancement. You know what I mean? Like, if you stump your toe last week and you got something very important to do next week, are you gonna let that toe stumping stop you from doing what you got to do?
Yeah.
And then when God involved, some things are bigger than what people think. And when God is involved in situations, nothing don't matter.
Sure.
Things don't matter. Some people allow it to matter because they can't get past certain things, but when God is involved, it's gonna happen. God gonna put you in the right place in the right time for the right reasons.
But I also think to go even further with that, it's also how can our experience help benefit other people who may not think that there is a way out of certain situations or that they've missed their chance. Like when I met with, there was a big I don't even want to call it a protest. It was June 6th. It was a march. I'll call it it was basically a say their name march because unfortunately so many people. But there were 600 people on the square in McDonough, and it was the most diverse I've seen it since we've been here. Yeah. But afterwards, I was talking to some of the younger people, and they're like, well, I didn't go to college right out of high school, so that's it. That's my life. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no. Yeah. Like, there's definitely a life outside of that. And that's kind of the thing that I've been trying to relay to people is maybe my past experience does need to come out so that I can show people that you can have a future and you're not limited to what this idea of, right? Because I feel like that's something that we battle constantly is this idea of what we should look like, what we're allowed to do, and that it's been formed already, but it hasn't been.
You're pretty deep.
Well, I mean, you gave me an opportunity, and that's what I was talking to my husband about beforehand I told you I loved your name. And I said, maybe this is an opportunity to kind of talk about some of that stuff that doesn't get talked about in a standard candidate situation.
Let me ask you this. How strong is your faith? Well, I really don't have to ask you that, but I'm just going to ask you how strong is your faith, just so you can say it. Tell me, you know what I mean?
So my faith is in everything I do, everything, and even in my mistakes, right? My faith is a guide and a power to keep me going to that next thing and to look at myself. And with that, before I had a strong faith, I wouldn't look at myself, and that's what I think I see a lot of people struggling with is that willingness to kind of look inside and grow. Yeah,
you know what I like in that too, and this is I have did sermons before too. God used me in many ways, and Moses, when God chose Moses to lead the people, Moses doubted himself. He felt like he wasn't worthy to carry out the mission that God had for him. He tried to find every reason. I'm a murderer. I'm on the run. He tried to find every reason why he shouldn't qualify. But eventually, God convinced him and he moved forward, so God was able to use him. But the reason why I asked about your faith is because when we speak about God and Jesus, the people that God used throughout the Bible were people that people felt like shouldn't be.
Flawed.
Yeah, those are the ones that God uses. But in society, a lot of times, we don't want to accept that fact. But we go to church, we say we Christians, we believe in the Bible, we believe in God. Now, it's a double standard. You can't say all that, and then when God allows something or someone to be used in a mighty way, in a good way, we want to neglect it. We want to find every reason to say, no, that can't be, because that ain't the way it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm glad you
I just thought it might be a good opportunity when it was presented that we had spirits that might align, I thought that would be a good conversation that we can have, that people don't don't really think about
Yeah.
or acknowledge. I think people are so afraid to be flawed in public. And so we hide it and we keep it down, and then it turns into this fear and this hate, and the opposite of fear is faith, right? So I can tell you right now that this journey that I'm running for Senate is all faith. Because if it's not faith, it is 100% fear, and I can't move forward that way.
That's right. You can't. I mean, you know it's something bigger than you. And I was going to ask you that question. What moment was it that?
I'm gonna use this if that's okay.
What moment inspired you to take that step? What was it that inspired you to take that step?
It's so interesting. You know, there's been many times where the step to run, sorry, I'm just gonna let that hang, was this tangible moment of someone said something to me, and then I then went and filled the paperwork out. But that stuff, if we're talking about the spiritual, it comes from, I felt the call to be of service in a way where I knew that the attempts that I had made, the protesting, the phone calls, the emails they just weren't hitting that mark for me. And I felt that I just felt called. And it was amazing because there was something that happened in the state legislature in Georgia in 2019 where they voted against women's rights. We can call it, people will call it a million different things, but for me, it was women are intimidating, let's put one more way to control them.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay. And then I got really sad and pulled the covers over my head and then said, wait, I can't do this. What is that next step? And that decision that I don't even know where it came from. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know how to do it, but I figured it out. I got out of bed. I found a leadership program. I went online and I started doing all the footwork, and it was the footwork that told me that, okay, the next right action, keep moving forward. And once I declared that sadness, that depression, that hopelessness that I was feeling disappeared.
Yeah.
Fear set in a little bit because I had no idea what I was doing or what I was taking on. But what happened is I started reaching out to more people, and that was it. It was all these things that were building up, and that once I felt that the decisions that these people were making made me pull the covers over my head, something was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And then multiple people said, if you don't like it here, you should leave. If you don't like it here, just leave. And I'm like, well, that's not service. Right? To me, if I would have just picked up and left, who would I have been hurting? Because the laws that I want to change or institute may not affect me personally, but generations of people. So if I were to just walk away, what does that say about me, in my heart, in my spirituality, in my God? And I just couldn't sit with that.
Yeah, it could walking away can bring you to destruction. And a lot of people don't understand that sometimes when you get a call and, you know, listening to you speak about it, I can feel it was a calling, and you got confirmation from people that wouldn't mind you representing them. You know, that's another thing too that allows us to move forward when we get that confirmation from a stranger to say, it's something about you. It's something. We need you. We need your opinion to be voiced. Our opinion to be voiced through you. We need you to be used, because I heard you say something in a video, and it was like the people need somebody in the Capitol that's going to represent the people, not somebody that's representing the Capitol. You know what I mean? Sticking to the norms and keeping things the way they are, and you know. But I heard you say that stuck with me. But it's confirmation from other people that also gives you that drive.
It is, and I can say that I had no idea the level of support that I would get and have had, because when you're in an area where this is, where if we keep you, I will always repeat this, our government is set up to keep us sick and uneducated. And if we're sick and uneducated, they can control us. So we have to find people that are willing to gather the troops and say, no, let's come together. They're manipulating us and it's wrong. And just take a chance.
Take a chance.
And just take a chance. And that's all it was, because I looked at my husband and I said, I can't leave. Like, we have this home. We're not only financially invested, we're emotionally and spiritually invested here. So the only option really is to try to make a change. But just like you said, people would approach me random. I'd be at events and someone would just come up and touch my arm and be like, it's okay, I know it's hard, keep going. And I would just start crying.
Yeah.
Because that to me is God. I mean, these people, I never even saw them again.
Yeah, confirmation.
So, I don't know. I could go down that path a lot, but you tell me where you want to.
You know, because this conversation got pretty good. See, it's things like that. What the conversation we're having, and especially the things that you're expressing, being in the position you are running for District 17 in the state Senate, you sound like a normal person.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it's about. Sometimes we can be so political or politically correct and, just so, like you said, go along with the flow with the way the government always have been set up, and to where people, it seem like you beyond human. You know what I'm saying? But just listening to you, there's a heart in there. And that's what we need. That's what we need, whether it's in North Georgia, South Georgia, California, New York, wherever. We need real people.
And it's time for that.
Yeah.
They're so funny, because this thing happened in the last, when they closed out the session in 2020, they did gutted the budget. $1.6 billion cut out of public education, cutting all these programs. And the person I'm running against, who's the sitting senator, is so proud of himself. I'm sorry, just hit my mic. So proud of himself. He said, we cut our wages. Yeah. But let me explain what they were really doing.
Okay.
When you have a seat before they made this last budget cut, $17,000 a year.
They cut back $17,000 a year?
It was $17,000. Okay. Now it's $13,000 a year for the seat. So I'm really fighting for it.
Okay.
It's proof that this is a service commitment.
Yeah.
But the idea is, if you keep legislative salaries low, the only people that can afford to run are not the average person. Oh, wow. The person that's independently wealthy. Maybe they're a lawyer. They have a career that allows them. Yeah. Maybe they have investments. Yeah. So a teacher, for example, couldn't afford to leave her job or his job and run for office. So by cutting that even more, they saw a change happening in the legislature. And that wasn't, let me be of service to the budget. I think it saved $300,000 per year versus, and that number's a rough estimate, versus they could have put in a new tax base of tobacco, for example, to bring it up to a countrywide level that would have raised over $500 million a year. Wow. But please, let's applaud making it less accessible for the average person to run for office. And I think people, I didn't know this until I was running. And so I like to share that kind of information. Hey, maybe you didn't realize this. Is the way that the fact that we're cutting these salaries means that maybe just anyone can't run, because then how can you afford to? For me, what they weren't counting on is that I work in television and I'm freelance based anyways. Yeah. So I can schedule my projects around session. Okay. They were not counting on that. Okay. They were not counting on that. But that's just an example of, hey, look what we're doing for you. But when you unpack it, and you're like, maybe not so much. It's
a catch to it.
Almost every time.
And a lot of times, if we're not educated, we'll never know. And one thing, ignorance of the law, or ignorance of laws, or ignorance of, the way things set up is not no excuse. You just trapped. Yeah. And you got boundaries, and you got a ceiling set for you. You know what I'm saying? You can only do so much with your life. We're not going to allow you to do but so much with your life, and you don't qualify. You don't reach this statute right here, so you won't qualify to even excel in certain areas, and that's not fair. That's not fair.
It's not lost on me that there's not going to be anyone else with pink hair in the legislature in Georgia. I understand that, but I think part of the reason why I've kept my hair this way, for example, I like to change it a lot. Okay. But part of the reason is because this next generation, I want to show them that it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what your upbringing, what your history is. You can make a change. And the other thing I like to tell people is the laws are made for us. What lights are made, what streets have potholes, you know, what the caps are, you know, all of these laws are made for us. They might as well be made by us. And if I can help inspire that next generation to run because I was a little different, we're the same age.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm part of that. I feel like I'm part of that generation that said, if you didn't do this by this age, move on to something else.
Yeah.
Or if you had to look a certain way, you had to carry yourself a certain way, you had to speak a certain way, listen to a certain kind of music, otherwise, they're not going to want you.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're doing anymore.
That's not the reality of life.
Yeah.
You know, that's control. It's another form of control.
Yes.
And you know, it's about freedom. This is supposed to be the land of the free, and we should have freedom. You know, if you want to wear pink hair at the session, or purple this next session, wear it. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to. That's not going to determine the truth in you.
No.
You know what I mean? That's just an outer expression that we see and people see and say, well, he bald-headed with a beard, so no. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, because what's on the inside is what matters the most.